Hey everybody, my name is Mohammed, and today we're going to have a quick little lesson about Sysml. Now, you might be wondering what is Sysml, and that's what we're going to get in here today about. Sysml stands for Systems Modeling Language, and as you can tell from the name, it's a language for systems modeling. And what that is a way to communicate how systems connect with one another and how they kind of like interact. And why we use SysML for this is because it's the industry standard. Um, so it's the best way to effectively communicate with other people how the system connects with one another. Why this is important to be used is because this connects kind of all the other engineers and like glues it all together in one. So with systems, there's going to be multiple different aspects connecting with one another. You can have electrical connecting to the structure, you can have that connecting to the controls. So you can have like everything connecting with one another. So it's important to have systems that way. You can kind of effectively communicate between all those teams to kind of see like, okay, if we do this to the electrical, how is it going to affect for the structures team, or you know, how they all interact with one another. And it's important to kind of bridge that gap, because without that, a lot of mistakes can happen, especially since there's not as much communication between those two separate teams. So we're kind of like in there trying to connect everything with one another. No. Having the systems modeling language also improves traceability. It allows us to track everything and kind of find the root causes of certain things. So it's really important to have things documented in a way that can be efficiently read, to kind of go in there and figure out and trace back issues. Now, this leads to the final point here, why SysML is important. um, Systems can get really complex, and there's going to be multiple components connecting with one another and interacting in different ways. So it's really important to kind of have that overview of how everything really connects in a digestible, clean cut way. That way, it's super easy to track and there's no mistakes made in between that. All right, now, if Sysml is so important and it's this industry standard and it plays a very important role, how do we use this language and how do we communicate with it? Um, the best way to put it is it's not a language that you communicate in a way like English. It's a modeling language. So the way that we use this language is with diagrams. Diagrams, diagrams, diagrams. That's going to be the main component that we're going to be looking at. And I'll give you guys a quick little example of what one of these diagrams looks like. We'll go through a basic one, which is called a block diagram, which is basically blocks connecting with one another. Now, let's start a quick little representation with, let's say, for example, a truck. The way that this diagram will work is we start with the main components. So we'll start off with the truck. And let's see components that connect with the truck. First, we have the engine that connects to the truck. Um, then we also have the transmission that connects to the truck, right? And we also have wheels that connect to the truck. So that's the first component of the diagram, where you have the main part, the things that connect with it, and these can get pretty complex and they keep going further. Like, for example, the wheel connects with the brakes. So that adds on to the block diagram. And that's kind of how everything really works with SysML. In a way, it shows main components, connections, further connections, and how they all tie in and work and communicate with one another. That way we know, hey, if we remove the wheel, there's going to be a disconnect between the brake and the truck, and things like that. So that's a pretty basic overview of what SysML is, and kind of in an easy, digestible way. Now, there are a lot of different diagram types, and I'll kind of go into that next here. I'll kind of give you guys the list of all the diagrams. We won't really go into it too far. It's mostly just to know that there are these different types of diagrams. We're not going to be using all of them at all right now. So it's just to kind of have a rough idea of the broad spectrum of things. All right, we're going to make a quick little block diagram of all the different diagram types in Sysml. Because there's a few main components, and those main components have some subsections in them. So it's a really easy way to kind of show you guys what components are there. So we start off with the main thing, which is Sysml, the language that we're going to be using. And the three main component diagrams are requirement diagrams, structural diagrams, and behavioral diagrams. Now, structural and behavior have subsections, and the requirements one doesn't. So let's get into the subsections of those diagrams. Within the structure diagrams, there are three subsections, which one of them is block definition diagrams, which is kind of like what we got into, like these block type diagrams where it kind of defines what the thing is and how it, like where it connects. And then it has internal diagrams and package diagrams. Now, when we go to the behavior side, there is activity diagrams, sequence diagrams, and then we have state machine diagrams, and then we have use case diagrams. And then we kind of have one final subsection to a subsection, which is in the structure side. Down in internal, there are parameter diagrams that connect with that. That's a lot. There's a lot of different types of diagrams, and we're not really going to go into the definitions of each one and how they work just yet. We'll probably have a separate video for each one specifically by itself. But this is kind of just a broad overview video to kind of introduce you guys to Sysml, to introduce you guys to what the diagrams are and how they're kind of used. So that should be kind of it for this video. If you guys have any questions, you can let me know. But yeah,